class, welcome to our presentation today. Today we're gonna talk about Unit 7, Translation Procedures. Before we start our presentation today, let me introduce our members, which are Intan, Kusuma, Nuur, Amini, Jullien, Magdalena, Welan, and Rahmah, Dinda, Awaliyah. So today we will discuss about 8 topics. The first one is general overview of translation procedures. The second one is translation methods of Nuur, 1988. The third one, procedure of translating culture-specific concepts. The fourth one, Vinay and Zerbelnat's translation procedures. The fifth one, translating procedures. Sixth, translating procedures of Nuur, 1988. Seventh, strategic of translating allusion. And the last one is conclusion. So, the first topic is general overview of translation procedures. Nida in 1964 describes that the translating procedures are follows. First, technical procedures introduce analysis of the source and target languages. A thorough study of the source language text before making attempts to translate it. Making judgments of the semantic and syntactic approximations. Second, organizational procedures introduce constant re-evaluation of the attempt made, contrasting it with the existing available translation of the same text done by other translator, and checking the text's communicative effectiveness by asking the target language readers to evaluate its accuracy and effectiveness and studying their reactions. Nuur 1988 mentioned the difference between translation method and translation procedures. He writes that while translation methods relate to whole text, translation procedures are used for sentences and the smaller units of language. He goes on to refer to the following methods of translation. A. Word-for-word translation, in which the SL word order is preserved and the words translated singly by their most common meanings out of context. B. Literal translation, in which the SL grammatical constructions are converted to their nearest TL equivalents, but the lexical words are again translated singly out of context. C. Faithful translation. It attempts to produce the precise contextual meaning of the original within the constraints of the TL grammatical structure. D. Semantic translation, which differ from faithful translation only in as far as it must take more account of the aesthetic value of the SL text. A. Adaptation, which is the freest form of translation and is used mainly for plays, comedies, and poetry. The themes, character, plots are usually preserved. The SL culture is converted to the TL culture and the text is rewritten. F. Free translation. It produces the TL text without the style, form, or content of the original. G. Idiomatic translation. It reproduces the message of the original but tends to distort nuances of meaning and preferring colloquialism and idioms where these do not exist in the original. H. Communicative translation. It attempts to render the exact contextual meaning of the original in such a way that both content and language are readily acceptable and comprehensible to the readership. Next, procedure of translating culture-specific concepts. Culture-specific concepts, according to Baker 1992, page 21, refer to a concept which is totally unknown in the target culture. The concept may be abstract, or concrete and relate to a religious belief, a social custom, or even a type of food. Example of culture-specific concepts are the English word privacy, the Javanese pekewu, the Indonesian word segan. Bridler said in 2000, page 3, quoted in Ordudari 2004, put forth some procedures of translating, CSCs. First, making up a new word. Second, explaining the meaning of the SL expression in lieu of translating it. 3. Preserving the SL term intact, opting over word in the TL which seems familiar to or has the same relevance as the SL term. Next, Vinay and Derbelnet's translation procedures. Vinay and Derbelnet's categorization of translation procedures is very detailed. They name 2 methods covering 7 procedures. The first one is direct translation, which cover borrowing, kalku, and literal translation. And the second one is oblique translation, which is transposition, modulation, equivalence, and adaptation. These procedures are applied on 3 levels of language: the lexicon, the grammatical structure, and the message, which is used to revert the situational utterance and some of the higher text elements such as sentence and paragraphs. At the level of lacunae message, Vinay and Derbelnet discuss such strategies as compensation, an important term in translation, which is linked to the notion of loss and gain.
Okay, next, it is about translating procedures. There are 7 kinds of translating procedures. 1. Borrowing. Borrowing, to overcome a lacuna, usually a metalinguistic one, a new technical process, and unknown concept. Borrowing is the simplest of all translating methods. For instance, in order to introduce the flavor of the SL culture into a translator, foreign terms may be used such as Russian words as robles, dantas, and apparatic, dollar, and party from American English and Mexican Spanish, food names such as tequila and tortillas, and so on. Other examples like tsunami, magma, pizza, tortellini, feijoana, and synthesizer. 2. Kalku. Kalku is a special kind of borrowing whereby a language borrow an expression from of another, but then translated literally each of its elements. The result is either a lexical kalku, as in the first example below, a kalku which respects the syntactic structure of the TL, which introducing a new mode of expression, or a structural kalku, as in the second example below, which introduce a new construction into a language. Example like in English, compliments of the season, and if in French kalku, compliment de la saison. Next, number 3, literal translation. Literal or word for word translator is the direct transfer of a SL text into a grammatically and idiomatically appropriate TL text, in which the translator task is limited to observing the adherence to the linguistic servitudes of the TL. Example, I left my spectacles on the table downstairs. In French calcul, in French literal translating, it is J'ai laissé mes tunis sur la table en bas. Next, number 4, transposition. The method called transposition involves replacing of one word class with another without changing the meaning of the message. Besides being a special translating procedures, transposition can also be applied within a language. For example, like al announced will firated. The meaning is he announced he would return. Can be re-expressed by transposing a subordinate verb with a noun, thus al announced son's return, or he announced his return. Number 5. Modulation. Modulation is a variating of the form of the message obtained by a change in the point of view. This change can be justified when also a literal or even transposed, translating result in a grammatically correct utterance. It is considered unsuitable and unidiomatic or awkward in TL. Example, the time when, which must be translated as le moment où or the moment where. And it is important to know atau penting untuk diketahui bahwa. Next, number 6, equivalence. We have repeatedly stressed that one and the same situation can be rendered by text using completely different stylizing and structural method. The classical example of equivalence is given by the reaction of an imitator who accidentally hits his finger with a hammer. If he were French, his cry of pain would be transcribed as "ay", but if he were English, this would be interpreted as "ow". Like that. Most equivalents are fixed and belong to a phraseological repertory or idioms. Clicks provides nominal and adjectival phrases. The last, number 7, adaptation. With this seventh method, we reach the extreme limit of translating. It is used in those cases where the type of situation being referred to by the SL message is unknown in the TL culture. In such case, the translator have to create a new situation that can be considered as being equivalence. Adaptation can therefore be described as a special kind of equivalence, situational equivalence too. They are particularly frequent in the translating of book and film title. Example, Choice Homes on un Coffee. The meaning is 3 men and a baby. Okay, next, Newmark translating procedures. The following are the different translating procedures that Newmark 1988 proposed. 1. Transference. It is the process of transferring an SL word into a TL text. It includes transliteration and in the same as what Harvey 205 named transcription. Transferred or improved loanword and transcription is the process of transferring a SL word to a TL text as translating procedures. It is the same as catford and transference and include general transliteration, which relates into the conference or different alphabet. In Russian, it's like Greek, Arabic, Chinese, and into English, the word then becomes a loan word. Next, naturalization. In adapt, the SL word first to the normal pronunciation, then the normal morphology of the TL. These procedures success transferred and adapt the SL word first to the normal pronunciation, then the normal morphology of the TL. Example like substina substudi. Newmark 1988, page 182. 3. Cultural equivalence. It means replacing a cultural word in the SL with a TL1. However, they are not accurate. This is an approximate translating where a SL cultural word is translated by a TL cultural word. Thus, baccalaureate is translated as the French level or abitur. And next, number 4, functional equivalence. Functional equivalence. It requires the use of the culture neutral word. These common procedures apply to cultural words requires the use of a cultural reword, sometimes with a new specific term. In therefore neutralis or generalis, the as a word, and sometimes add a particular to baccalaureate and French secondary school leaving exam, such as ZEG or police parliament. This procedure, which is a cultural component analysis, is the most accurate way of translating and deculturalizing a cultural word. By Newmark, 1988, page 83. 5. Descriptive equivalence. It is procedure that meaning of the CBT in explained in several words. In translating, describing something sometimes has to be weighed against function. Thus, for mention, the description is a Latin American broad, heavy instrument. Thus, the function is cutting or aggression. Description and function are combined. A knife or samurai is described as the Japanese aritoraki from the 11th to the 19th century. Its function was to provide officer and administration. By Newmark, 1988, page 83. Next, number 6, componental analysis. It means comparing an SL word with a TL word which has a similar meaning, but it is not an obvious one-to-one equivalence. By demonstrating first their common and then their severing tense component. By Newmark at 1980, page 114. Next, number 7, synonym. It is a near TL equivalence. Here, economy terms equerry by Newmark 1984. Newmark used the word synonym in the sense of a near TL equivalence to an XL word in a context where a provides equivalence might or may not exist. With these procedures is used for a SL word where there is no clean onto one equivalence, and the word is not important in the text, in particular for adjective or adverb of quality, which is principle are outside the grammar and less important than other component of a sentence. Thus, personal gentiles, kind person, contempt piquat, or racist story. Other meaning is awkward or fuzzy. It is a synonym is only provide the where literal translating is not possible and because the word is not important enough for components analysis, and here economic procedures accurately. Numbers 8, through translation. It is the literal translation of common collection names of the organization and component of compound. It can also be called calcu or loan translation. This is the same as Vinay and their blood calcul. In theory, a translating should not initiate through translating. In fact, through translating in contagious culture sometimes fill in useful gaps and perhaps if it's time and good appetite. And next, they are should finally enter from familiar English, the most obvious example of true translation are the names of international organizations which often consist of universal words which may be transparent for English and Romance language and semantically motivated for Germanic and Slavic. Example like EEC or Communicate Economic Europe.
The next slide, number 9, shift or transposition. A shift or transposition is a translation procedure involving a change in the grammar from SL to TL. One type, the change from singular to plural, for the example, furniture, applause, advice, or in the position of the adjective like the White House, is automatic and over the translator no choice. A second type of shift is required when an SL grammatical structure doesn't exist in the TL. Here, there are always options, thus for the neutral adjective as subject, the first SL verb, TL noun, for the example, attempt, the second SL conjunction, TL in the indefinite adjective, for the example, wani. The third SL clause, TL noun group, for the example, any attempt. The fourth SL verb group, TL verb, for the example, involves. The fifth SL noun group, TL noun, for the example, inconsistencies. And the last SL complex sentence, TL simple sentence. Number 10, modulation. It occurs when the translator reproduces the message of the original text in the TL text in conformity with the current norms of the TL. Since the SL and the TL might appear dissimilar in terms of perspective. Next slide, number 11, recognize translation. It occurs when the translation normally uses the official or the generally accepted translation of any institutional term. You should normally use the official or the generally accepted translation of any institutional term. If applied, you can gloss it and in doing so, ironically, show your disagreement with this official version. Number 12, comparison. It occurs when loss of meaning in one part of sentence is compensated in another part. This is a professional translation, usually of a new intentional term, which should be made in inverted commas, which can later be directly withdrawn. It could be done through literary translation, thus heritage language. This is said to occur when loss of meaning, sound effect, metaphor, or parametric effect in one part of sentence is compensated in another part or in continuous sentence. Next, number 13, purpose. In this procedure, the meaning of the CBT is explained. Here, the explanation is much more detailed than that of the exhaustive equivalent. These are rather impressive translation procedures which you practice intuitively in some cases, at AOC in others. However, for each there is at least one shift which you might like to bear in mind, particularly in poorly written texts. The first, SL adjective of substance plus general noun, for the example like linguistics, and the second, for expansion, a not uncommon shift often neglected is SL adjective. English TL adverb plus past participle or present participle plus object. This is an amplification or explanation of the meaning of a segment of the text. It is used in animous text when it is poorly written or has important implication and omissions. Number 14, couplets. It occurs when the translator combines two different procedures. Couplets, triplets, quadruplets combine 2, 3, or 4 of the above-mentioned procedures, respectively, for dealing with a single problem. They are particularly common for cultural words if transference is combined with a functional or a cultural equivalent. You can describe them as 2 or more bites at one cherry. Next, number 15, notes. Notes are additional information in a translation. Additional information in the translation might take various forms. Within the text, the first as an alternative to the translated word. For the example, la gable becomes the gables. The second as an adjectival clause. The third as a noun in a position. And the next as a participle group. Next, in brackets, often for a literal translation of a transfer word. And the last, in parentheses, the longer form of addition. Where possible, the additional information should be inserted within the text, since this does not interrupt the reader's flow of attention. Translators tend to neglect this method too often. However, its disadvantage is that it blurs the distinction between the text and the translation contribution, and it cannot be used for lengthy addition. First, notes at bottom of page. The second, notes at the end of chapter. And the last, notes of glossary at end of book. The next topic is about strategies of translation evaluation. Next, regarding the translation of proper nouns, Rahmah asserts that normally people first ensure names are transferred, that thus preserving nationally and assuming that their names have no connotation in the text. The procedure of transference cannot be asserted to be effective where connotation and implied meanings are significant. Indeed, there are some names in the Persian pot, Sadi words, Gulistan, which bear connotation and require a specific strategy for being translated. Rahmah's solution of the mentioned problem is as follows. First, translate the word that underlines the SL proper name into the TL, and then naturalize the translated word back into a new SL proper names. However, there is a shortcoming in the strategy in question, as it seems should seem it is only useful for personal. Sign as Newmark, ignoring the right of not-educated readers to enjoy a translated text, that it can be utilized merely when the character's name is not yet current amongst an educated TL readership. M.Hum, as quoted in Oudadari, processes another set of strategies for translation the proper name allocation. First, retention of the name. A. Using the name as such. B. Using the name adding some credence. C. Using the name adding a detailed explanation, for instance, a footnote. The second, replacement of the name by other. A. Replacing the name by another SL name. B. Replacing the name by a TL name. And the last, omission of the name. A. Omission the name but transferring the sense by other means, for instance by a common noun. B. Omission the name and the allusion together. And the last slide is about conclusion. Although some stylists consider translation sprinkled with footnotes understandable, their use can assist the TT readers to make better judgment of the ST contents. In general, it seems that the procedure functional equivalent and notes would have a higher potential to convey the concept underlying the CIC embedded in the text. However, it can be claimed that a combination of these strategies would result in a more accurate understanding of the CIC than other procedures. Okay, that's all presentation from Group 7. Sorry if there are some mistakes from us. Thank you for watching and listening this video. Have a good day. Bye bye.